What did I tell you? This is perfection. Like I said at the beginning of this, episode 4, my favorite episode of the season, gloves off. This was basically, and I think people will remember it as the Bullseye episode, but a lot of other stuff happened in it. We're going to talk about all of it. Very excited. Also, my cat Mortimer, not sitting on my lap. Didn't let him watch this one because there's a cat eating an egg, and I don't want him to see that and then be like, oh, where's my egg? And then I have to make eggs, because I definitely would, if they're good for cats. I don't know if they are. But either way, the most fun episode, most fun intro. New York State of Mind, Wilson Bethel playing Benjamin Poindexter, aka Bullseye. Like I said last week, we are going to see Bullseye, and the screen is not going to turn blue. From this point on, I don't think we do that again. Maybe a little bit, but it's not like every scene with him is bathed in blue light. You know, I think what Wilson Bethel does with Bullseye in the show is great. And while I think there's different ways to play Bullseye, in the comics, I feel like he's really like one thing, right? Which is that he is this precise instrument of destruction, right? His tagline is he can turn any object into a deadly weapon, right? He can use his CD like he does in this episode, which is like, why would he? Oh, yeah, that's why, because he can't do that with an iPhone. But what makes Bullseye different from other marksmen in comics, like Hawkeye or Taskmaster is a great shot, and then guys like Green Arrow, Deadshot, Bullseye is not only the best at what he does, but he's the most efficient, because Bullseye has a one-track mind. If he's going to kill you, he has tunnel vision, and he finds a way to kill you. I think I like that now. This is the first time we really see Bullseye as a free agent. Sure, in the end of season 3, he starts doing his own thing, but here, he has an apartment, he gets to choose what he's going to do, how he's going to balance the scales, and it's not surprising that his morality is kind of a disaster, but even that, I like that it's simple, because I like the Bullseye is simple. He's a good guy or a bad guy. And he used to be a bad guy, now he's a good guy. So you shouldn't be scared of him at all. This intro reminds us Bullseye's very regimented. He was in the military, I believe, in his origin story at some point. But like that kind of structure seems to really work for him. Also, he's doing these push-ups with his butt in the air. I don't know too much about push-ups. I assume the people on set that tell you how to do push-ups, and also the actor who clearly does push-ups, know what push-ups look like, so I'm assuming that's just a good push-up that I've never seen before. But then Bullseye goes outside, he is nice to a cat, which is how you know he is a good guy, so it kind of spoils the line later when he's like, I'm one of the good guys. It's like, we know, you fed the cat. And then he goes to the diner, and this is all just a plan to get Fisk's attention and mess with Fisk. Now, which Fisk? We'll see. Usually in this show, when I talk about Fisk, I'm talking about Mayor Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin. However, while Bullseye does not like Kingpin, remember in the other show, Kingpin broke his back, and also I think killed his girlfriend. I can't remember. Not his girlfriend, but like a woman he was obsessed with. But Vanessa is the character that Poindexter really cares about. And that's fun, because everybody else is so focused on Fisk that you do lose sight of the fact that Vanessa is a big part of the operation and has done a lot of things that would get her this kind of attention. So he goes to a place, the Bel Air Diner, where there are lots of people, because again, he doesn't really care. I genuinely think the reason this character does this exactly this way is A, he wants it to be in public, B, he knows a diner is a place with a lot of sharp things just hanging around, and C, I think he really wants a snack. Like, I feel like if he wasn't in a snacking mood, he might go to a hardware store or something like that. But he finishes that milkshake in one sip, and that's after eating whatever his breakfast was. And also, he doesn't have brain freeze, which is pretty impressive. I will say, while we were watching this, and like, I've seen this one already, as he goes into the diner, Hannah's like, why is there a lobster tank in the diner? I want to be like, there's a reason. And it's not just like that SNL sketch about bad lobster at a diner. Like, I do think it is insane that that is there, and that is not the answer that she gives when she's like, are you famous for anything? It's like, yeah, we're the diner with the lobster tank. And you know how good it is? Some guy brought his dog into the place to eat the lobster. I'm assuming he picked it out, and then we cooked the whole thing for him, and he's just gonna eat a full lobster dinner at what I assume is lunch in the diner. So, like, yeah, the banana milkshakes might be good. I'm betting she didn't tell him the lobster because A, it's too much work, she doesn't really want to do it, or B, she knows it's not that good. Either way, bizarre setup that leads to a beautiful cap on this fight, but yeah, it is hard to miss. One detail I love, because there's so many details in this episode that I think are so good. A lot of them come down to Wilson Bethel's performance. Then we'll talk about Kingpin, obviously, he was also great. But one small thing I love is that Bullseye is putting on this charm, right, that kind of usually works in situations like these. Like with the neighbor or landlord or whoever. He gives the cat the eggs and she's like, oh, what a nice boy, right? I like that this waitress just does not care. And is like, I don't know, milkshakes, I guess? We're the one that makes lobsters. Did you not see the lobster tank on your way in? Bullseye calls the task force, tells them the Punisher is out, which, again, would suggest they don't have the Punisher, and I guess he knows they don't have the Punisher, which is interesting. Although I imagine even if they did have the Punisher, you would still send cops there, assuming that's like a copycat or whatever. I will say, hearing him speak in this scene specifically, in this episode overall, his delivery, maybe his face even, he reminds me a lot of Bucky. Sebastian Stan, like same kind of like sarcastic dryness to some of his delivery.
Doesn't everybody?
I read The Hobbit in 1937.
But I guess that's not exactly what it is. It is interesting, though. Bullseye and Winter Soldier are very similar, right? They are soldiers who were psychologically manipulated into being killing machines, and that upset them. Now they're trying to figure out a way out. Luckily, Bucky has Steve, who believes in him. The best Bullseye can do is Daredevil, who will not kill him if you make him promise not to. That's like the best you're going to get for Bullseye. There's so much stuff. I mean, this really is probably my favorite fight scene in the whole season. This is not what I call the hallway fight. There is a hallway fight coming later that's like the other hallway fight, I would say. No, I don't think this is the hallway. This is a restaurant. This is a restaurant fight. But I do love the detail that goes into how Bullseye kills people, because he's throwing things, but he's not just throwing them at guys. He's bouncing them off a couple of surfaces so that they get him right in the head. Like, there is a version of this character who just throws things. Scary, but the version of the character who's bouncing things around, A, you know you were never safe, no matter where you are, and B, you can see him kind of having fun with it. The creativity is what he enjoys, the artistry. I wouldn't say this character thinks of himself as an artist, but I think he treats killing like an art. Also, I think this is a good Bullseye costume. Now that he has the logo, and like I said, the collar I feel like makes a big difference. I'm not sure if that was there last season. You know, it's got the blue in the chest and the black on the sides. It feels like pretty close to a comic Bullseye. And like, I think the little gun over the chest is kind of silly, especially because of how few times he uses it, but I do kind of like it, because I think for like a costume, something memorable, if you dressed up as Bullseye for like Halloween or something, that would really help, that gun right in the middle of your chest. And you can fill it with, you know, whatever, and then you're shooting drinks at people, you're shooting shots, like that's fun. This is a good costume. I might try it, depending on how hard it is to find that shirt, because really that's doing all the work. I like that Bullseye feels the need to be polite, because again, he's a character who needs direction, but once he gets direction, that's perfect. That's why he works so well under Fisk, and that's why in a lot of these interactions, you see him just kind of being friendly, and it's like, yeah, because that's what he's seen other people do on TV, or that is how the people that raised him taught him, like, be polite, say thank you, tell them they make a good milkshake, and like, that's something he would hear as a kid, and then just stick with it as an adult. And then you get the guy with the dog. Now, Bullseye is, as he is frequently in this episode, like when he was nice to the cat, 100% in the right here. It is unsanitary to have the dog there, but just have it in the restaurant. It's kind of weird that we let people do that. And to be fair, I don't see it that often, but what possessed this person to take their small dog into the diner on what I assume is a walk and stop out for some lobster? Dog's pretty well behaved though. You don't hear it barking even when everyone's getting shot and murdered. So points for the dog, and maybe it doesn't touch the floor and it's not that gross. But again, this is a rule because Bullseye loves rules. I do want to point out one moment that I absolutely love that I think kind of makes the episode for me. When the guy at the booth tells Bullseye to not kill him, right? He's worried because he knows he's broken a rule, and this guy seems to take rules very seriously. So it's like, please don't kill me, don't kill me. And I like that Bullseye in that moment does seem surprised by that, because it's like, oh no, there's a code that I live by that everyone knows, and clearly you haven't broken enough rules to get murdered, right? And that's like the good guy code, because he's a good guy. I love the reaction. It's a small shot. You go from the guy in the booth to Bullseye back to the guy in the booth before he says his next line, but you see him get a little confused and then crack a little smile. And in that moment, I think that smile is him imitating heroes. He sees Superman in a movie or Captain America in real life and goes, oh, if the people are scared, you have to smile at them and say, don't worry, citizen, everything's going to be okay. And the best version of it he can put out is that, and it's terrifying. I'm just going to play the clip a couple times on a loop. Like, it's just great. There was a genuine moment the first time I saw this where I thought he was going to throw the dog at the guy. It didn't really make sense in the moment. I wasn't like convinced that was what was going to happen, but I was like, ooh, are we going to do an Everything Everywhere All at Once fight scene with the dog? That'd be interesting. But then he uses the lobster, Chekhov's lobster, that's what it should be called on the menu, to kill that guy. And again, I think this is something the show's doing really well right now. It has been doing really well the whole season, but like you can see a lot of it in this episode. A lot of specifics. Bullseye pets a cat. He drinks a banana milkshake. He's got the stupid gun on his chest, even though he doesn't use it. The dog is like a little fluffy white dog. He kills the guy with a lobster claw. Like, these are things, A, we have not seen before, and B, these are going to make the scene memorable. In the future, you'll be at a diner, and someone will be like, do you want a milkshake? And you'll remember that time that Bullseye killed that guy with a lobster claw. And that's fun. Also, I love the camera work in this scene, not just when things are bouncing around, but the reaction of the first AVTF agent when he sees Bullseye, does that Jaws like push-pull, because in this moment he's about to get eaten by the shark and he knows it. And then Bullseye makes his signature symbol, which he has made enough that everyone knows what it is. And if I saw it, I think I'd be able to figure that out. If I knew there was a guy named Bullseye, I'd be like, oh yeah, this is him. It's just so good. This is my favorite individual scene of the series. There are a lot of good ones still to come, but like as far as an action scene that just working the entire time. It is having fun doing all of it, but every moment is in service to demonstrating things about Bullseye, especially for someone who hasn't watched season 1 in a while. Like, we've seen Bullseye kill some guys, but we haven't seen him do it up close. This is the first time the show is like, here's what Bullseye is like. This is why he's a problem. And the music, New York State of Mind. Fun song here. I love a good contrast, and I like that Poindexter feels comfortable here. He could leave. He should definitely leave. But like Matt, he's a New Yorker. He can't leave. Yeah, just overall, this is my favorite scene. But it's not even the whole episode. Other things happen, like they're interviewing some of the people that they rescued from the prison. And we learn a couple of things in the scene that I think are pretty interesting. The first one is that Jack Duquesne, played by Tony Dalton, who is part of this crew, who is going to leave the show now for at least the foreseeable future, was in prison for 6 months in one suit, and like we don't see how they feed these people or whatever. But if that's the case, he looks incredible when Daredevil breaks him out of the prison. Unless maybe it's the kind of thing where he got to take a shower before court so he wouldn't look like that much of a mess. But the way he describes it, it seems like he maybe has not been able to. Gives Matt money, which is nice, and then he leaves. I'm not mad that he doesn't say, by the way, my stepdaughter is around. If you bump into her, say hi for me. Tell her to stay away from that Bullseye guy. You know, she's already fought Wilson Fisk, so she's probably pretty high on his list. But besides that, perfect little scene. This is how you know that Daredevil's suit is good. It looks good in light. We don't see the suit too much in the like direct sunlight or like just static light. A lot of the times it's moving around, but these shots, we get a lot of look at the details, and the details also look great. Little White Tiger is now like officially part of the crew, I guess. Again, the ethics of this would be easier for me to parse if I had any idea how old this character is supposed to be. But then the guy from the boat shows up, and he confesses to all the boat crimes, eventually. I mean, specifically, it's like Kingpin did it, Wilson Fisk did it. Which, I think the way he makes the case is pretty obvious. Like, to get a ship that's not supposed to be there through all the security, like, that's not something anybody can do. There's really only a couple people that can make that happen, and the mayor is one of them. I love that Matt tells Karen he loves her. I don't know if he's done that before in the series, but it feels like a moment that was built up, and, you know, I like that. Again, because when we usually see Matt and Karen, we're also going to see Fisk and Vanessa, which we saw earlier in this shot. They're kind of arguing over her place in the organization, which is interesting, because we did get a little bit of that last season. She took over, she ran things at least okay, and now Fisk is in charge, and he's running for mayor, which is not what they planned, but like, she's willing to roll with it because she really does genuinely love him. More of the boxing framing device, and gloves off, this is the boxing episode, which is also great. Like, I feel like this episode feels so much like Bullseye focused, right? The action, everything is very deliberate, but also like the pacing is very deliberate. We're at the midpoint of the season, end of episode 4, that's the big fight where everybody's in the same room. Perfect. Powell and them raid Christy McDuffie's office. That was a good scene. Again, I really like Powell because he just feels like a real cop. I believe the actor is not American, just in the sense that like he's faking an accent. And I think if that's true, A, it's working very well, but B, it kind of could explain why he feels so good as a cop, is because he's not trying to go for all the intonation. He's not trying to feel like a Southern or anything. This is a character who's just getting his lines out, right? He's just saying like, we're here to search your thing. Give us Daredevil. Give us all the people you stole. We're going to kill you. I'll shoot this guy. I'll shoot that guy. Goodbye. Like, he's the same delivery for all of it. It's definitely intentional, but it really helps to make this character work. And then we get a little Bullseye and Mr. Charles. You haven't seen Mr. Charles that much in the last episode. And he's doing that thing where he's acting very cavalier, talking about something completely unrelated to the serious thing, but then he's going to talk about the serious thing. You know, I like how chaotic he is, but in this scene, I like that Fisk is able to Fisk his way through it, right? And it's just because in that moment, Buck Cashman is able to kill his guys because Buck Cashman is apparently a crack shot, but like Fisk entering that confrontation, being surprised by Mr. Charles, and then leaving the confrontation having killed Mr. Charles' guys and saying the very Fisk line,
"Next time you want to see me, call."
In some ways, things are falling apart for Fisk. But in other ways, Fisk is getting like comfortable with this power, right? There's things that Fisk is able to do really well now as mayor, and things that he's not. And this is one of the things he's good at, like brokering deals, being a power player, and not being scared, right? Hiding fear. And that's why Fisk and Matt are so interesting, because Matt is the man without fear, and Fisk frequently suppresses his fear, like a lot of these characters do. Trying to be a little deep, but I feel like that's something that's true of most characters in these situations. And we get another look at Karen's bizarre wigs. Again, I think these wigs are worse than no wigs. I think if she just had her regular hair, she would kind of be able to fit in, but I think if you saw someone with that hair, you would go, that's somebody. But you know, these ATVF guys aren't super bright. And we get Vanessa Fisk talking to fake Kathy Hochul, and we see what she's good at. Like, she's good at the actual dealing parts of dealing. The parts that don't have to do with, like, showing strength and beating your opponent in negotiation. She's good at understanding what people want to hear, telling him that, and getting what she wants out of it. Also, I didn't mention this before, I think it's very smart that Fisk wants her out of the way for the big fight, because he is worried about her. However, if he's that worried about her, she's been in Bullseye's sights many times so far in this season. Like, while Bullseye definitely wants to make a scene, the idea that Fisk can protect Vanessa from Bullseye does feel like he really doesn't understand what Bullseye's capable of. And then we do something that I don't think we've seen done in a while on a show like this. Matt steals the bad guy's uniforms. Well, he didn't steal them. Little White Tiger stole them. But Matt uses a bad guy uniform to learn some information about the crime scene. And I love this because if you look at our current system in real life, like with ICE, these masked, unaccountable agents of the state, people, and in a very reasonable way, we're like, listen, stop doing all the things you're doing, but definitely take the masks off because we can't see you. And that facelessness is valuable sometimes. But sometimes it means Daredevil can put on your suit and then no one can check. You know, and also this bizarre hierarchy that seems to exist where AVTF guys can just do whatever they want, again, can be abused by the good guys because when your system is built on fear, there's a lot of ways to manipulate that. Another good reason why fascism doesn't work. So Matt uses his Daredevil senses because, again, this doesn't come up that often. Not only does he have an echolocation, he has other enhanced senses. He can smell really well. That comes up a fair amount. But he also has a very sensitive touch. So he's able to find stuff. And he goes to the church and he talks to the priest. He's like, hey, there's a blind guy that used to go here. And I guess he knows at this point that priest is new. And I might be getting the terminology wrong, but whatever. So he's like not super worried about totally outing himself as exactly who he is. But this has a very Steve going to his own exhibit in the Smithsonian with like a hat on and just like pretending nobody can see him. It's like, oh yeah, I knew this blind kid once. He said all these prayers back when he was much younger, but now I guess he's older. Like if that guy had any connection to the church, if he was there for a while, he would obviously be like, oh yeah, you're Matt Murdock. Yeah, right. Yeah, that's cool. Good to see you. Like, I thought you were dead, but you're not, and that's great. Weird that you're in the AVTF, but I guess your girlfriend is also the chief, like, propaganda psychologist, so it seems like maybe you guys are way more into this than I thought. And I like that the priest, for a second, is like, well, I'm not just gonna tell you, right? And he knows, because the priest was held at knife point by Bullseye, that Bullseye is psychotic and going to cause a lot of trouble. He's still like, that's not how this works, buddy. But I love the assurance from Matt that he's not going to kill him, because obviously that's going to play into later. Also, Matt does a little coin toss too, just so he can show, like, I can do that. In case somebody important is looking, I'm about as good as Bullseye. We got another anime-ass fight here between Bullseye and Daredevil, where Bullseye and Daredevil both punch each other the same way at the same time, which is really funny because they're not trained by the same person, and Bullseye isn't Taskmaster. He can't like copy your moves. This is just like they're so goddamn similar. A couple other highlights I love here. I do think the action is really well choreographed here. The basic foundation of a Daredevil v Bullseye fight is Daredevil is really good up close. He wants to keep the fight close. Bullseye, if he can get some distance, is very dangerous. So Bullseye's always trying to get away, Matt's always trying to pursue. Love that he has little toy airplanes, and it does seem like, I think in this moment, he does not want to kill Matt. And I think you can kind of tell that, and you can tell that in all of these scenes where he doesn't kill a person, by the fact that he still hasn't used that gun. Like, the idea that he defaults to little airplanes instead of the gun, it's like, he likes Matt. They both kind of like each other. Not really, but there's like a professional respect, or at least a respect like as a craftsman of like what you do. You're one of the only other people that can appreciate it. And then Bullseye leaves, takes the woman hostage. I was listening to the Daredevil podcast with Dario Scaraponi and Wilson Bethel, and they were saying here, and I like this, like Bullseye just does whatever he think he needs to do to like get to the next spot, right? Like he seems to want to have a nice relationship with that person, but at the same time, he's like, you know what? I need to get out of here. You know what? Screw it. Let's just hold her hostage. We see the cat again. That's always nice. Very pretty cat. And then Bullseye beats up that guy and takes his scooter. The stealing a motorcycle or a scooter from a guy, that trope, it feels like a trope now. Maybe I haven't noticed it before, but it happens all the time in these. The two examples that come to mind immediately, when Winter Soldier steals the motorcycle during the Civil War chase, the first Civil War chase. And the other one that comes to mind is in Deadpool 2, where Deadpool steals the scooter to get to the convoy. If anybody else has any other cool examples of this, let me know. Now we're at the fight. It's the end of the episode. Things are looking horrible for everybody pretty much in every single way, except for Bullseye. I think it's looking great for him. White Tiger uses her network of guys to get close to BB, to give her the SD card. Cool. I kind of like that guy's still a jerk to White Tiger, but then he's nice immediately after. She's like, here's something important, because like he gets this is more important than that. I still think he would be nice to her even before that. If you saw her, especially if you knew her mom was out, you apologize, like, because things went bad and it's kind of your fault. But then we get the fight, and the fight's great. I love this scene. Love everything about it. Love that it takes place at Fogwell's, where Matt had sex once with Elektra. That was cool. But before we get to like the end bit, I want to just go over this boxing match because it is bonkers. Just like the idea that the mayor is gonna beat up a guy, even if it's boxing, feels a little weird, but I would assume he got to pick his guy. And I imagine after he killed his trainer the other day, it's probably kind of hard for people to say no to him. But the idea that he's going to fight this guy, I just want to read their stats real quick. This is what they tell us about him. So Matterhorn, that's the name of the other boxer, 235 pounds, 32-2. Everybody boos him as if this is wrestling. And like, I don't know if I were there, if I would expect it is wrestling. I'd be like, this is kind of fake, right? Like, this isn't really no one's really gonna fight each other. And Wilson seems to acknowledge that in the weight room. It's hard to read if he's saying like, no, he's not gonna lay a hand on me because I'm gonna be so good. Or he's like, he's not gonna fight me because then I'll kill him. I'll murder his family. He knows like not to do it. But then you have Wilson Fisk who comes in. So the first guy was 235 pounds. Wilson Fisk is 325 pounds. He has no boxing record, but obviously he's muscular. He's been training for this. Also, he just has a humongous advantage over this guy in terms of size. Like, if I'm this guy, you never take this, right? Maybe you really need the money, and Fisk has a lot of money, but like any boxer that's any good and takes himself seriously is never going to take this fight. And watching this fight would be tough because first of all, you'd be like, oh, it's kind of staged or it's fake, which would be the good version of it. But the bad version of it is like, oh my God, one of these guys is going to be way better at this than the other one. Either the professional boxer is just going to destroy Kingpin because Kingpin is just some guy, or Kingpin having a 90-pound advantage on this guy is going to mean he's going to kill that guy. And that's just like a bad sporting event, you know? Also, Blake. The idea that you were buying merch at this event, like it seems like Blake is loaded now because of his wonderful apartment that has a one Godfather poster, which is so funny. But the idea that this merch was not sitting around in the office for a week and you never asked still kind of proves he doesn't really know what he's doing here. And I like that it kind of dawns on BB and Sheila in this scene. They're like, oh wait, we're gonna watch one of these guys die. Because like, they're there and BB doesn't seem that upset when they're like in line. It's kind of that same feeling that I have sometimes when I like go to a horror movie I'm really excited about. Because we're just real excited that it's going to be a great movie, like when I went to see Weapons last year or whatever. And then I sit down in my seat with my popcorn and I think for the first time, like, oh wait, this is going to be scary. Like, this is not the experience that I'm used to here. Not that that's bad, it's just something that you don't realize or think about until you're in that place. Also, don't love the name of this fight. This is the scrapping in the kitchen fight. I don't think that works. If we're married to the kitchen, which I guess we kind of have to be, right? Because everything takes place in Hell's Kitchen, which is a tiny district of New York that, like I have said before, full of tourist stuff, right? It's where the Broadway shows are. But let's pretend it's the gritty, seedy Hell's Kitchen from like the 70s when this character was written. I don't think Hittin' in the Kitchen is better, but it definitely rhymes in a way that like a boxing thing usually does. I also think they missed the obvious scrappin' in Manhattan. It's a slant rhyme, but I think it's better. Even like scrappin' in the apple, getting the P, like there's assonance, but I still don't think it works. You know, and again, that's the problem with fascism, right? If Fisk goes, I have it, it's scrapping in the kitchen, everybody in the office has to go, oh yeah, boss, that's great. It's a great one. You picked it. It's the best one. Instead of like, oh, but it doesn't rhyme, because then he would take you and throw you out of a window. Before we get to the fight, Buck kills those guys, or it doesn't, but we'll get it out of the way right now. Why do we even need Bullseye if Buck Cashman can shoot anybody and kill him without really too much effort, it seems like. But the fight is shot great. It looks gorgeous, very brutal. I also think it's really funny that it doesn't seem like this boxer knows Fisk, or like they've even met. Which I feel like, again, if you're Matterhorn, you're like, listen, I gotta sit down and talk to this guy and just tell him, we're not faking it, but you can't kill me. I'm not gonna do it if you're gonna kill me. But then he'd kill you anyway, so it's like, you know, what are you gonna do? Love that Fisk goes back with the energy after the first round, and this is a 3-round fight, comes back with the energy of like, okay, let's kill this guy, for real. Like, he's not like, I cooled off. He's like, oh, this is all I want right now is to kill this guy. And I'm not a big boxing guy, so I don't know too much about boxing. I love that he has Matterhorn on the ropes, like literally hanging over the ropes. And he's gonna like punch his head off. He's gonna do a shot to the back of the head. And like at that point, that's a murder, right? Like, if he has beat up that guy so much that he's literally hanging unconscious off the ropes, like what Fisk is loading up is a felony. And like, there's other more believable punches that are felonies, right? Like, if you do what Fisk does and probably kill this guy, I don't think we ever actually get like the word on if this character survived or not, but like, you kill him in the ring, that's a mistake. If you do that, you're in trouble. But then Vanessa shows up, she's not supposed to be there, and then Fisk gets hit and the camera gets on a little merry-go-round and swings around, and I love it. I love all the fun stuff. Every time the show takes some sort of risk or does something different, I approve, and it's usually fun. But it is really an interesting character moment here, because this is as good as things are going to get for Fisk. Not to spoil what's going to happen even further down the line, but like, even just by the end of this episode, it's like, things are not good. But like, this is the happiest he's ever been. And this is all any of these guys want. Like, when is Trump happy? If you watch as much news as I do, it's not when he's signing the bills. It's not when he's giving the speeches, doing any of the president stuff. It's when he's getting the awards, when people are being nice to him, because at least this is true for Fisk. I can't fully speak for Trump. Fisk's dad didn't love him enough, and he's been desperately trying to fill that void, and this is as close as he is ever going to get through the city. And I like that Vanessa in this moment isn't like mad as much as she's like embarrassed by it, or like, oh god, right. Like when she talked to fake Kathy Hochul, and Kathy Hochul was like, you know, your husband's kind of like crazy, right? You should get rid of him. And Vanessa's just like, but I love him so much. And this is her seeing that and going like, oh man, this is kind of embarrassing. This is super embarrassing, actually. My enormous husband killed a much smaller boxer, and he's really proud of it. And he has a little belt that they made for this. But then Bullseye shows up and just starts killing people. Now, when they set this up earlier with Powell, where Powell was like, don't worry, I got every entrance taken care of. They're not going to be able to get in here. I believed him because this character has been more or less competent up until this point. So in my head, when you hear that, you're like, okay, so how's Bullseye going to get in? Well, either he's already in, he's posing as a medic. That I think would make sense, especially if he's like, no, Fisk is going to try to kill this man, so he's going to need a medic to come in. But in fact, the plan is just kill all the guys guarding the way in, and then just keep killing guys until you've killed them all, and then you get Fisk and Vanessa. I know we keep calling him Fisk and Vanessa, but he is Fisk, right? Like, that's what you call that character. And she is Vanessa.
Vanessa!
She's Vanessa Fisk. But then the Bullseye shows up and kills everybody. I don't know how many AVTF guys are left after this, and the diner fight, and every other fight that's happened so far with Daredevil. It does feel like there's going to be fewer of them than you would want for something like this. And it also feels like if Bullseye wanted to, he could kill them all in one day. Especially because, like they say, this is a trap for Bullseye. Or at least that's what Daredevil thinks Fisk did this for. Fisk did it for a couple of reasons. The one is he wants a little belt, but two is it's a trap. And he's still able to totally get in and kill all the guys. Nice little character moment. Daniel Blake protects BB. He's not a little coward that runs away like George Costanza. He does genuinely care about this person. And another detail that's fun, Bullseye is using his Bullseye powers to only kill the AVTF guys. Like, he will bounce a knife beyond a normal citizen into a guy, and that's something only Bullseye can do, and it makes the scene really fun because all the characters in it think it's dangerous, right? Like BB, Sheila, Daniel, they think they're all going to get killed, and maybe they kind of would if Bullseye can connect them to Fisk, but in reality, like, Bullseye knows exactly who he's going to kill in that room before he gets in there. Also want to point out something I love about Bullseye, something I don't think I noticed, and I don't know if he's been doing this the whole time, but definitely in the restaurant, in the intro here, right? You have a character who's throwing knives. This is how you would expect to throw them. Maybe a little this. Very frequently, he does this move. He crosses his arms, gets knives or forks or whatever, and flings them kind of from inside of him. I don't think that's supposed to be like symbolism, but it does feel like those moves are more powerful and more personal than your usual just like flinging a thing, because like it's coming from within Bullseye as opposed to around Bullseye. Another detail here that I love, and I didn't notice this until just now, Bullseye doesn't have his gun, because when Daredevil knocked it out of his hands in the apartment, he never went back to get it, and like Bullseye doesn't have a second apartment. You know, Daredevil has like hideouts and places that Frank uses where he could re-up on some of his weapons maybe, but Bullseye is either like in a Starbucks or in the Port Authority bathroom in the couple of hours between when he fights Daredevil and when he goes to kill Fisk. But I guess Bullseye must have a hideout, right? Because he doesn't take the knives with him. He probably has places where he's hidden the knives, but not like guns. And it's nice Fisk gets to kiss Vanessa one more time before maybe something bad happens. Vanessa manages to shoot Bullseye, which is cool, before Bullseye tosses the tacky city paperweight at her, I believe, because I do think, and we'll get to it maybe at the end here, he's there to kill her, but Fisk uses his stupid belt to block it, and I remember when I saw this the first time, I was like, oh no, is Bullseye gonna lose? And then Fisk pulls out a gun, And I didn't realize this until someone brought it up, I think, online. This is the first time we've ever seen Fisk use a gun. He just doesn't do that because he doesn't need to. He has guys that do that. But Matt saves him because Matt promised the priest that he wasn't going to kill Bullseye, and they were outside. I remember people saw this scene being filmed, specifically because it's filmed on the stream. People kind of knew where it was. They were able to like spot this one in the wild. Luckily, it wasn't incredibly consequential. All it told you was that Bullseye is going to be back and there's going to be something that happens at the gym. But then Vanessa ended up getting stabbed, which means it's kind of luck, I guess, because I don't think Bullseye expected the thing to bounce in just that way. Which is funny because it means Bullseye's highest profile hit is the product of luck, right? Not skill. Skill's part of it, but it's also luck. And Vanessa is down, I will say. It's not clear if she's dead in this episode. I know people are probably trying to figure it out online. I will say, do not draw too many conclusions whether she is alive or dead based on just this, right? Because you'll get all that information in the next episode. But let's say she is dead for the sake of the argument. If she is, I've seen people compare this to fridging. Fridging is a comic thing. I should get that issue because it's kind of important. Like, it's pretty significant, where in an effort to bother Kyle Rayner, Major Force, a Captain Atom villain, killed Kyle Rayner's girlfriend or wife, I can't remember, and stuffed her in a freezer. People don't like the idea of a woman that gets killed or abused for the purpose of motivating her husband or boyfriend or whatever. And you see it all the time in media. I think we've gotten better at it recently. I don't think this counts. Because while if she were to die, that would definitely motivate Fisk, I don't think in the world of the show, that's why that happened. This happened because of what she did and the consequences coming back to get her. It really doesn't have anything to do with Fisk. And that's why I think this moment is so smart. Like, sure, I imagine Bullseye would have killed Wilson Fisk afterwards, but the person he hates is Vanessa. So as much as it seems like fridging, and people can make the argument, I'm willing to hear him, but I don't think it is in this case, because that is not the narrative reason why she is killed. She is killed as the result of reaping what she sowed. How characters deal with that, if she is dead, which I'm not confirming right now, that doesn't feel like the same thing as fridging, even though technically she is the wife of a character who is now motivated to get revenge. But I don't think that's why she exists, right? That's, I think, the difference. If she's dead, which I'm not saying she is. Then the episode ends, and it's great. The thing that I liked that I didn't really mention is the score is really good in this episode. They do this when Bullseye's escaping from his apartment. I think that and the sound design, I think in general, the MVP of this episode is Wilson Bethel. Like, I think he really works more than his character's ever worked before, and I think his character's always been great. But this sets his character up as like someone who I want to be a big player in the future. And I think someone that could realistically be Daredevil's nemesis in a Kingpin-free world were that to ever happen. Because I feel like a lot of the conversation online that I've seen is people saying, I get Fisk, I enjoy Fisk, he's very good, but like, is there anybody else that matters to Daredevil? Are there going to be other big bads? And I think there's other characters that haven't really done anything yet that they totally could use. But I think now Bullseye's like origin story feels complete. And I love how much he kind of thinks he's Daredevil. That's the end of the episode. My favorite one. Really, really good. Next week is going to be great, obviously. And all of them after this, I think, are really good. They all have parts that I think are awesome, but this one, just front to back, I had an amazing time. I hope you enjoyed it. I did enjoy it, like even the smaller parts, like when Daredevil was at the crime scene and he was using Daredevil powers. Like, that's something we just don't see him do very much anymore. And I like that it felt like they were really kind of mining, like, what can this character do that makes him special? And speaking of crime scenes, that reminds me of a video I watched recently by a content creator I love named Tom Scott, because he's got this new series called England, where he goes to different counties in England and does an interesting thing. And in this most recent episode, he went to a CSI lab and went through some CSI courses for like training, and it was really interesting. It seems like it's maybe not as exciting of a job as the TV shows make it seem like it is, but that's a lot of jobs. But anyway, if you want to see that video before it hits YouTube, along with tons of other videos, early, ad-free, we got exclusive videos, you should check out this video sponsor, Nebula. Nebula is, say it with me, a subscription streaming service that I and a bunch of other really cool people helped create. Nebula has evolved so much over the last 7 years. Sure, you can still watch all my videos early and ad-free. You can watch videos by a bunch of other creators you probably already love. But one of the most exciting things about Nebula is our original programming. Tom Scott has a new series called England, where he goes to every English county to find something interesting. You should check out this first episode where Tom Scott goes to Leicestershire and he visits a bell making factory. You see the entire process, learn how bells are made, and it is not how you would expect, especially since this bell making factory is hundreds of years old and they're still working with some of the same techniques from a century ago. Tom Scott even gets to use a sledgehammer to break one of the bells a little, because shockingly, it's hard to do. It's hard to use a sledgehammer to break an enormous bell. And each episode of England is going to be on Nebula for a week before it goes anywhere else. On top of that, we got a series that I love watching called Abolish Everything, where someone, maybe a comedian, maybe another YouTuber, makes an argument for something that should be abolished. They state their case, they make a very funny PowerPoint, the political establishment gets to weigh in, and then the audience decides what deserves to actually be abolished. This week they did the championship for the second season. They had a ton of really funny people on it. I've never been on that show, maybe sometime in the future. I think I'd be a fun abolitionist. And then later this year, although hopefully not too much later, Nebula's first original dramatic scripted series, Subliminal, comes out with the episode that I wrote, which I cannot wait for you guys to watch. Nebula is the best way to support all of the creators you already love and all the creators you don't know you're going to love, but then you're going to love them when you see them on Nebula. You can also download the videos to your phone, which saves you data when you're not at home. And there are not AI videos on Nebula, so this isn't going to be like YouTube where you go on and you watch a video in a minute or two and you're like, something's off here, and then you realize like, oh, this video is AI. Which happens on YouTube and other platforms way more than I would like to admit. Nebula, we all got real stuff made by real creators, and that's why it's great. And a year of Nebula is already a steal at $60 a year, $5 a month. But if you go to go.nebula.tv/thenandocut, you can get a year of Nebula for just $30. That is $2.50 a month. It is an amazing deal. Again, go to go.nebula.tv/nandoviamovies to check it out. That's all I got. Stay safe. I will see you next time.